Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. But today is a Friday, the end of the week, and we've got lots to discuss with you. But our main emphasis is going to be on the visit of Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, who is here on a two-day official visit to Pakistan to not only show solidarity with Pakistan as far as the recent calamity of floods due to climate change is concerned, but also to collectively gather all the community, all the world community, the different countries across the world to help Pakistan in this hour of need. Before we go any further, let's hear what Antonio Guterres had to say.
I would like to express my enormous appreciation in this coordination center to all those women and men that have been working tirelessly to support the victims of this unprecedented natural disaster. There is an obligation of the international community to massively support Pakistan in these circumstances, and there is an obligation of the international community to take seriously the need to drastically reduce emissions and at the same time to support the countries that need to invest in adaptation, in resilience and recovery, as it is the case of Pakistan. And my voice is entirely at the service of the Pakistani government and the Pakistani people, and the whole UN system is entirely at the service of Pakistan. We know that our contribution is limited. We know that what we do is a drop in the ocean of the needs, but we are totally committed, and Pakistan is a country that I have in my heart.
The United Nations Secretary General says that he and his organization are fully committed with Pakistan to support it in this time of need. That is the floods that have claimed the lives of more than 1,300 people. Tens of thousands have been rendered homeless and shelterless and without the basic amenities to go on with their lives. More in the following report.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is paying a two-day visit to Pakistan to express solidarity with the country braving a colossal climate-induced natural disaster. Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif and UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres visited National Flood Response and Coordination Center in Islamabad, where they were briefed about the damages caused by floods and the rehabilitation work. UN chief underlined that Pakistan's contribution to climate change is minimal, but it is one of the countries most affected by its consequences. Speaking at the briefing, the Premier thanked the UN chief for undertaking the visits, saying that his empathy and support is great encouragement elucidating massive rescue and relief operations. Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif said that efforts are underway and flood affectees were being moved to safer areas while also being provided food and shelter. Prime Minister Shahbaz further underlined that Pakistan is doing its best with its meager resources, and he extended gratitude to international community for contributing, while emphasizing that unless we get sufficient support in terms of relief, in terms of repairing the damage, it will be in trouble. Welcoming the arrival of the UN Secretary General to Pakistan, Minister for Information and Broadcasting Mariam Aurangzeb stated that visit of UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to Pakistan will help highlight the problems and difficulties faced by flood victims at global level. Earlier, Pakistan's Ambassador Munir Akram reminded the international community that Pakistan's contribution to global greenhouse gas emission is negligible, but it's facing deadliest consequences of the changes caused by these emissions. Amnesty International underlined that wealthier states that have responsibility for climate change must remedy historic injustices and support low-emitting countries like Pakistan after deadly floods have shown the devastating impact of climate change.
We've been joined by two important guests. One is in the studios, the other one is online. In the studios, we've been joined by Sarmad Iqbal. He's an environmental lawyer. Sarmad Khan, thank you very much to have joined us. And in the studios, we've been joined by Wahab Khan, who's a social activist. Wahab, thank you very much to have joined us as well in the studios, of course, online. So let's begin with Sarmad Iqbal. Sarmad Iqbal, environment, climate change, this is what Antonio Guterres, during his visit to Pakistan, even before when he addressed the world after the devastation that was caused in Pakistan, he said that Pakistan emits less than 1% of carbon. Nevertheless, it has become the most vulnerable country, if not one of the most, as far as the effects of climate change are concerned. So the West or the other countries need to act more responsibly because they could be next. How important is it for the world, I'm not talking of Pakistan, the world, to understand the importance of climate change in the perspective of the floods that have affected Pakistan?
Well, thank you very much, Omar, for having me on the show. If you look at the current situation in Pakistan, approximately 33 million people have been impacted by it. this is a catastrophe which probably we were thinking of in a couple of years' time. But it
never
has come.
anticipated to come this early.
No, that is biggest challenge. As I call it in a few other places, that as Antonio and some other people quoted that the monsoon is on steroids. I would say monsoon is on steroids on the one hand, but Pakistan is the playing field for climate change on the other hand. We are suffering the impacts of climate change, starting from the north, glacial melting, to the sea intrusion in the south. And in between, we've got desertification, we've got land degradation, we've got water scarcity, we've got numerous issues. And all that is coming into play because of the changing weather patterns, changing environment. And Pakistan is seeing the destruction, devastation firsthand. Our people are suffering firsthand, and the world needs to act responsibly in terms of allowing the country to function in a way where it has emitted less than what was desired for in terms of development indicators and growth, but has been receiving huge brunts of impacts from the developed world, where they have committed to uplift the countries which are suffering from the climate impacts, but so far we are seeing the commitments are not being fulfilled, and that is one of the reasons Pakistan is going to suffer, because it's not going to have any money injected which is being pledged for Green Climate Fund or funds which are used to uplift the environment of countries that are suffering. And Pakistan, by the way, stands on the 8th worst impacted countries, but with the current flood situation in Pakistan, I believe we are going to be in the top 3.
Exactly, and this is what a lot of other specialists and heads of organizations are also saying, that Pakistan has become the most vulnerable country, if not one of the most, as far as the impacts of climate change due to this flood and the impact that these floods have had. This increased rains that we did not anticipate of, in 300 to 400% more rains than anticipated in Sindh and Balochistan and other provinces, that has caused the havoc that it has caused, and that is why Pakistan becomes the most vulnerable country. Wahab Khan, coming to you and coming to the impact of social media and the impact of people's voices as far as climate change is concerned, as far as environmental pollution is concerned, as far as Pakistan in the situation in which it is concerned, and also as far as the commitments made by the United Nations and its Secretary General are concerned. How important is the use of social media as far as highlighting this and bringing in more awareness across the globe in areas such as devastation due to the floods in Pakistan is concerned?
Thank you for having me, Samir. As well said by Sarmad Iqbal, this is a very serious issue, not for only a few countries, for the whole world. As I was an activist and I was the founding member of one of the organization, Pakistan Progressive Youth Society of Pakistan, we have been doing works in different areas in Pakistan. Before coming floods, we have observed different areas in Pakistan, Balochistan and the northern side. Literally, nobody has noticed the issues. Why we can't learn from the past? Even the recent incident of Mary and 2010 flood, why we always fail to fulfill our commitment before the time when the flood comes or such natural disaster comes. We always fail. We do not learn from the history. We do not learn from the geography. We do not learn from anybody. We were aware that this situation can come. The global index clearly indicated us that we are on the top 10 red zone, red listed countries of the most affected countries of the climate change. Secondly, it's not just, there are two approaches, I would say, that internal approach within the Pakistan and external approach also. Internally, politically, we have been polarized. We should not bring politics to such issues. It's a matter of humanity. It's a matter of Pakistaniyat. We should all come together for a common purpose. Secondly, it's a clear-cut call to the whole world that this is not an issue of Pakistan. Global climate change is not a Pakistan issue. It is a Mother Earth will affect the whole world. If Pakistan is today, Pakistan, tomorrow it could be UK, it could be US. So we cannot escape this. So we should all come together and should take it very seriously.
That is so true. Taking things seriously, especially in the context of climate change and the effect that it has had on the world, including what we are encountering in Pakistan since the last few weeks. Sarmad Iqbal Sahab, the United Nations Secretary General, says that his voice is entirely at the service of Pakistan. He also says that there's an urgency to deal with the climate change crisis that the world is grappled with in the context of what is happening in Pakistan. Is the world listening? Is the world observing? Is the world going to react to it?
Well, we saw welcoming remarks from Antonio, and the UN flash appeal, which is $160 million US dollar, has been launched. But the challenge that we are seeing right now is the influx of money to actually serve for the response activities, let alone the recovery and
the rehabilitation, relief and rehabilitation. The estimate that has been made is around $10 billion US dollars, and I think that is an estimate because the real cost will come in a few weeks' time when the water would have subsided.
Exactly, and right now 4 of our provinces have been hit in various capacities, starting KP to Punjab to Balochistan to Sindh. One of the worst hit provinces was Balochistan, as we saw, with flash floods, with massive land underwater, with houses washed away, with kids being washed away, with women suffering from the impacts of floods, no houses, no shelters provided to them, living under open sky, and then this devastation moving towards Sindh. So right now, the charts are being topped by Sindh, but the destruction in Balochistan is also huge.
It's unprecedented.
It is indeed. It is unprecedented. It is uncalled for as well. And these communities were not ready for it.
True.
Hundreds and hundreds of years ago, they said some of the communities received the rain in the rivers. The water in the rivers was there after 100 years, they said. They haven't seen that much water there. So the climate is changing, the rain pattern is changing, and we're going to see huge changes in the rainfall as well as the destruction patterns as well. I'm sorry, but I'm using this word.
The fact remains also that we were talking just before I went to Wahab about the pledges. The pledges made by countries in COP26. How important is now for these countries who pledged in COP26 to reduce their carbon emission either by 2030 or afterwards or even before that, to now implement it in letter and spirit? And do you feel this implementation is going to come?
Well, before answering that question, let me just mention here that one of the organizations that I work for, Islamic Relief Worldwide, we were at COP26 last year, and we launched one of our study which said climate-induced migration in the wake of changing weather patterns. That was 1 year ago, less than a year ago. And right now, people are on the road, people are on the banks, and millions are on the banks, not just hundreds or thousands, millions there. So the analysis that we were making are coming true. Unfortunately, the rapid resilience perspective that needs to be brought in has been slow because of the pledges not coming in, because of the money not being committed. Islamic Relief has raised this voice for raising funds on 1st of August. And right now we are standing at 6.7 million GBP to respond to the flood effectees. And I believe rest of the organizations working in the country would have been standing at the same figure. But the challenge right now that we face is that there's no money coming in. Commitments are high, the pledges are high, but the actual money that needs to come in quickly to be able to respond to the needs of these flood effectees as a response.
And if not in money, then in kind, that is in form of assistance with infrastructure, with rebuilding infrastructure that has been damaged, or with supply of food or the different items that the people need at this point of time in different provinces, whether it be in the form of food, water, clothes. So many women and children are shelterless. The amount of people who do not have access to clean drinking water, sanitation issues that cause all the different diseases that are now slowly and steadily prevalent inside these communities, which include cholera, which include diarrhea, and so on and so forth, dengue, malaria, you name it, and the diseases are prevalent there. So if not one way, then the other way, the world needs to help Pakistan. This is the time Pakistan needs it as much as it can.
Well, I believe right now what we need is the response capacity.
True.
We need money to respond. So far, Islamic Relief has reached over 65,000 people. And this is one organization I'm talking about. There might be other organizations. If the money comes in, we're going to reach. The organization plans to reach 4.5 million in the next couple of weeks.
All right.
However, if the fund flow stops, we are going to be challenged. And the same goes for other agencies. In fact, even the UN, in fact, even our own government is going to be challenged if we don't get that money for the response, let alone the destruction, the 10 billion approximate figure of rebuilding lives for people. 33 million people are affected.
Of course.
10
and that is
billion
also again more or less an estimate. We will know the exact number in a few weeks' time.
Exactly, and I believe 10 billion is just going to be less than enough for even responding to the needs in KP, let alone Balochistan, Sindh and Punjab.
So I agree with you on that.
So these are the things that we need to look at, the commitments as well as money coming in or money flowing in from our philanthropes, from our donors, from our brothers in the other countries, from our Pakistani diaspora. It needs to happen.
All right. Wahab, when it comes to, online on different platforms, whether it be Twitter or Facebook or all the other social media channels that are present, YouTube as well, do you feel that these platforms can adequately be used by activists such as yourself or the organizations such as that Sarmad Iqbal Sahab represents to highlight the atrocities that have happened in Pakistan as a result of climate change, and how it is important and pertinent for the world to help? Will that also help in one way or the other in your point of view?
Hello.
Yes, can you hear us, Wahab?
Hello. Sorry, there was an issue. Yeah, obviously the helping or aid is not in one form in just financial way. It could be in any way. It could ranging from financial, it could be communication, supporting, logistics, it could be any form. And I would urge Pakistani youth who is very active on Twitter, on Facebook, on social media. It was the social media that bring about the remote areas which were not highlighted on the big platforms. There were some issues, the people who were stuck, 3 people that were unfortunately then later on flooded away, was highlighted by the social media. There were other circumstances that were not highlighted by the main media. So social media plus youth has a huge role in this, because these are the people who know exactly where remote areas are affecting more, because these big platforms cannot encompass everything. It is the youth, these platforms and social media that should also contribute actively in one way and other. It could not be only financial, it could be in any other way, whatever it comes to them.
All right. Also joining us is Mustafa Abdullah Baloch. He is an analyst. Thank you very much, Mustafa, to have joined us. Mustafa, looking at the devastation and looking at the reaction that we have seen so far from the international community, but most important of it is the visit of Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres. Do you feel that this is going to have some kind of a change as far as the world policy towards Pakistan in helping it in this time of crisis is concerned?
Well, Omar, it's always a pleasure to be on your show, and the current situation of Pakistan is obviously very critical in terms of the calamity which has been witnessed, and it was something which Pakistan never witnessed, such kind of severe calamity. And yes, the visit of Deputy General Secretary of United Nations will definitely play a vital role in this, and obviously the world has to play a role, because we all know that Pakistan is, Pakistan has been a victim of the carbon, emissions, and
climate
Pakistan has
change
been a
in
victim of
more
this
than one form, in
climate
more
change.
than one manifestation, in fact. Yes.
Yes. So actually, the world has to play a role, and the world, including the giant countries like US, China, and India, they have been the producers of carbon, nitrogen, and carbon dioxide, and all these industrialist countries which have been producing such kind of severe kind of gases, which has kind of destroyed the environment, and ultimately Pakistan has been the victim of this climate change. So the polluters need to come forward and help Pakistan in this critical time. not just sympathy, but we need a proper
Actual
aid.
help. We need actual help in different forms, in all the forms that can be manifested. But Mustafa, you know, I'd like to revert to something that the United Nations Secretary General said during his presser with the Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari Sahab. He said we waged war on nature and nature is striking back. We have seen the way nature struck, but why does it strike those countries that do not emit as much carbon as do the other countries? Why are we so susceptible?
That's the issue, Umar. That's the prime issue that the world must realize that Pakistan, and I guess they are realizing this because international media has been covering this, and they have been, developing a feeling that yes, it is because of them Pakistan is facing this situation. And currently, I'm in Netherlands, and over here, if you know that the history of Netherlands, that they have been flooded away in 50s. But then they rebuild themselves, and actually it's below sea level. It's actually 20-25 feet below sea level, but still they have tried to maintain them, and up till now there has been no such floods and such kind of things over here. But point is that something which will come in a later stage. Right now we have to think about those people who have been displaced, who have been worn and torn after this flood. They don't have a place from Swat to Shikarpur and entire Balochistan.
I mean, there are scores of places, Mustafa, across Pakistan, in Balochistan, in Sindh, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, where people are literally at the mercy of nature as we speak, where they do not have enough to eat, drink, or even do the necessary. They have to defecate in the open, and that causes a lot of issues as well as far as health is concerned, and societal issues as well. Mustafa, you are in the Netherlands. What is the basic thought of the people there as far as what is happening in Pakistan is concerned, as well as the visit of the Secretary General to Pakistan? Is there any reaction to it? Is there any resolve to help those in need in Pakistan?
Actually, Umar, I have met a lot of people, a lot of Dutch people over here who have been actually concerned about the situation in Pakistan, and they are actually having a feeling that this is a big disaster which a country like Pakistan, who is already a developing country, cannot manage to take this huge calamity. But I have a feeling that people over here have a soft corner for Pakistan, and they have discussed with me and asked with me, inquired about all the situation back home. But point is that across the country, I guess this is in Pakistan, the situation is very critical. And over here, if I talk about Netherlands, this place is itself been a victim of floods. And they, so maybe they know the repercussions of
They know,
floods.
but are they going to take any action? Is the West, do you feel that there is a sentiment that action needs to be taken, help needs to come to Pakistan and the people who are in dire need of it?
Yes. There is a lot of such kind of feelings emerging in Dutch people as well, and I guess the whole European country bloc will be standing with Pakistan, because they know a lot about the climate change, and we have been. It also exposes a lot of things which probably the things like the tsunami and all of what those things which happened in previous government. I mean, they didn't produce any such environment friendly results for Pakistan, because we also with government, but we also need to collectively realize and understand this water. It's being cleaned out, and people are homeless, and they are losing their lives.
I mean, of course, as long as that resolve is there and some kind of action is taken by countries such as Netherlands, that would be a good step in the right direction. Sarmad Iqbal Saab, I'll come to what the United Nations Secretary General said, and before that, Mustafa, thank you so much to have joined us. Mustafa Abdullah Baloch, analyst, joining us from the Netherlands, talking to us about the visit of the United Nations Secretary General to Pakistan and in the whole context of the floods that have devastated Pakistan, with more than 33 million people affected, and of course more than 1,300 people who've perished as a result of these floods. Sarmad Iqbal Saab, I'd come to you and refer to you a quote of the United Nations Secretary General while he was doing the presser with our Prime Minister. He said, "It is a matter of solidarity, it is a matter of humanity." When you look at the different crises that engulf the world as we speak, we don't see as much of solidarity as possible, but there is a need for humanity to rise above all and to help those in need. Will that happen in your point of view, just like your organization Islamic Relief is working, just like so many other organizations are working for the benefit of the people? Even people on their own are doing whatever they can. Do you feel that this resolve that is emanated from organizations such as yours is going to diversify?
Well, honestly, I would go back to the previous question which you put to Mustafa. The people across the globe are very considerate. They are watching us very closely. They are watching the developments in Pakistan very closely. And this flood impact, we are receiving numerous inquiries, calls, asking us to guide them in terms of where they can donate, where their money can be used. And as I said, when Islamic Relief raised 6.7 million, 70% of that money came from individual donors.
All right.
Pakistani diaspora, those people who are concerned about Pakistan. Even some of that money came from not Pakistanis, they were non-Pakistanis. They had nothing to do with Pakistan, but they wanted to help. That is humanity at play right now. And this is why we are urging the world to come together. We know that there will be numerous crises globally, and the donors are exhausted. But we want the people to actually help the donors, help organizations like us by coming forward and donating. This is a cause for humanity, and as we say, we need to actually work for our akhirah as well. So this is the time to step up.
But Sarmad, you said the donors are exhausted. If the donors are exhausted, then how will the aid continue to come if the donors feel that they've reached a certain limit?
Well, definitely every donor has a mechanism of allocating funds to different countries. Some get allocated through government grants, some through individual philanthropic, some through corporations, some through corporate. So CSR and other things then joined together can make a difference.
All right.
Each penny counts at this moment.
True. Each penny counts, Wahab, as far as the aid for Pakistan and those Pakistanis who've been affected by the floods is concerned. How important is the role of social media in this? And do you feel the arrival of the United Nations Secretary General in Pakistan is going to boost that effort in the right direction?
Omar, that is a very welcoming gesture from UN side, but it's not just enough that people put forward their words of solidarity, and it's just not enough. This is a very good welcoming gesture, but we need more. If we come to the whole world with this capitalistic market economic boost, this is very much less than we are as compared to the affected areas. If you compare to the statistic of this, Pakistani affected area is equal to 6 times to Afghanistan population, 2 times to Iran, and 2 by 3% of the Arab whole population. And when it comes to the France or UK combined collectively, when they combine, it comprises the affected area of Pakistan. So when it comes to the capitalistic market or their whole resources, it need more Pakistan. This is not just needed. Everybody is just showing their sincerity or solidarity. That's a very welcoming gesture, but we need more. One is that we need economic assistance. Secondly, we also need assistance from transparency within the country, because we have to also give them a confidence that these funds are using in the very right directions. So internally, we have also challenges, and externally also. So this could be again, should be taken seriously and should be considered to the humanity level, not just on the issues. We should focus on the solution part more.
And that is very important, to focus on the solution part and to focus on with as much emphasis as possible. We've also been joined by Namrah Sohail. She's a reporter from the Foreign Office desk in Pakistan Television. Namrah, thank you very much to have joined us. Namrah, you were there when the United Nations Secretary General, along with the Foreign Minister Bilawal Bhutto Zardari Saab, addressed the media. What was the basic crux of what the United Nations Secretary General had to say?
Well, thank you, Omar. Omar, I would say that the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres was totally devastated by the scale of floods and the catastrophe that has happened in Pakistan. And he urged the developed countries, because he was of the view that Pakistan has not really contributed to the catastrophe that it's going through right now. So he urged the developed countries to step up and provide Pakistan with the financial and technical resources that we need right now to survive this extreme condition that Pakistan is going through. And he also appealed the world to stop its madness and end its war with nature and invest in renewable energy, because we've done irreversible damage to climate change, he said. And he also said that this climate change and this climate emergency is not an event of the future. It's happening right now. Today it's Pakistan. Tomorrow it's going to be another country. So, and he also basically he was here to ask the global world to do more for Pakistan, because we need a lot of financial assistance right now. We need a lot of funds and a lot of money. And he said that what has happened till now is just a drop in the ocean. So he also asked the developed countries to produce a credible roadmap to back their commitment and to double their financial support in terms of climate change. And he also said that this what the situation is right now should also be brought up in COP27, which is due in November this year. So as far as the UN is concerned, he said that flood victims of Sindh and Balochistan have been provided with aid from the UN Central Emergency Response Fund. And he also gave, this is good news for Pakistan, that they're going to step up their efforts via an air bridge to Dubai. So, but as a matter of fact, he was very clear in his point that this is not a matter of generosity or solidarity. It's a matter of justice. And this generation is facing extreme climate change. So the world really needs to step up and do more for Pakistan because of the scale of destruction that Pakistan is going through is unprecedented.
All right, Namrah, he also said that he had visited Pakistan on various occasions, that he understood Pakistan and how Pakistan functions. Is it important for somebody like Antonio Guterres, who understands Pakistan, to highlight its issues in a much more aggressive and probable fashion compared to other leaders?
Definitely, because at the press conference after his meeting with the foreign minister, he said that he is in a love affair with Pakistan since 2005. It's been 17 years that he's been, starting from the earthquake victims, then in 2010 again flood victims, and now he's here in Pakistan again to show solidarity. So, and he said that he was also devastated not because of the flood. He said that he understood Pakistani people so well that when Afghan people needed Pakistan, we have been, hosting Afghan people, and we've been very generous towards them. That's what he said, that Pakistani people have been very generous. So it is really hurtful for him to see Pakistani people suffering in a way that they are suffering right now, which is unprecedented, and it's colossal damages have been done to this country due to climate change. So he says he is totally in love with the country and with the people of Pakistan.
And that shows in his commitment towards helping Pakistan in this hour of need, and coming all the way to our country to pledge more support and to pledge more donor support, and to talk to all the donors across the world that Pakistan is in need of help, and that they need to step up their efforts and double and triple their efforts as far as this country is concerned and the calamities that it has been faced. Kindly stay online with us, Namrah. Coming back to you, Sarmad Iqbal, you've just heard what the United Nations Secretary General had to say in the press brief with the Foreign Minister. He also had one with our Prime Minister, and all he had to say was a lot of genuine, sincere support for our country. Connecting the United Nations with organizations like yourselves and the expatriate Pakistanis, do you feel Pakistan is in a possible space to come out of this huge tragedy, this huge calamity that it is encountering?
Well, I'm very optimistic. we are in this space and we'll create that space to come out of this calamity. All we need is a consolidated effort and friends standing behind us. And our PM and the foreign minister are doing a great job actually telling the world what we are faced with, telling the world what this devastation has caused, telling the world that 33 million people are suffering, but apart from 33 million, when this thing goes for another week or two, we are going to be faced with extreme poverty situation. There are going to be huge numbers going below poverty line. We are going to have huge numbers of people who would be food insecure. We will have huge numbers
economic implications of it all.
Yes, exactly. Right now, the standing crops that were destroyed, we don't have an actual estimate of it. We are estimating around 1.7 million hectares or 17 million hectares, whatever you might call it, but we don't have the exact calculation of what crop, how much area that's going to come in a few days.
The fact remains that a lot of farmers don't even know where their land actually is because the demarcation has been completely destroyed by the floods.
I was talking to one of my team members in Dadu and Mirpur Khas, and then they were going off to Kambar Shadat Court, and they sent me a video, and they were driving a boat on National Highway. So the situation is not good. The situation is very bleak. But we are seeing the government, the donor pledges coming in, the organizations taking a lead, people asking for donations, for help, for lending a hand from people who can afford it, to actually help those people right now who are in distress. Let alone the recovery and rehabilitation efforts that would come at a later stage. Right now, as you said earlier, that we will be faced with cholera, dengue and other diseases. We are being faced with it. The numbers are not coming out. Why? Because the population is spread. Our services are feeling challenged. There's huge influx of people as compared to the service delivery by our entities that are there. The organizations have joined hands. They're bringing in medicines, they're bringing in food stuff, they're bringing in tents. So far, Islamic Relief has already distributed approximately 10,000 liters of water just to make sure that people receive clean drinking water and they're not suffering from these.
That is also something that is in dire straits. I mean, that is in not in adequate numbers. Even the amount that you are saying is not enough for all the people.
No. The appeal that we launched initially was for 15 million pounds, and that was for a response, and we were looking at it in a very conservative way. But when we actually saw the devastation on the ground, we immediately raised the appeal from 15 to 30 million GBP. And right now we are thinking of escalating that appeal 3 times to do the relief, the rehabilitation and recovery efforts. We are not seeing that the recovery and rehabilitation is going to be easy or
it's going to be this is a long road ahead, and there's going to be a lot of hurdles in it. But the fact is that we need to be steadfast in our resolve to help our country and to pledge for as much help as we can in all different capacities possible. For
yes, and there's been huge number of debates going on in different circles. If there's no money being given to Pakistan, then how about looking at reducing the debt servicing, moving out the debt, cancelling the debt? There are many things that could be looked into.
There are different options that could be looked into. Thank you very much, Sarmad Iqbal Saab, to have joined us, to have given us the perspective of an aid organization that you represent, and also the what needs to be done in the whole context of the visit of the United Nations Secretary General as well, that is going to boost the efforts as far as helping the Pakistani people are concerned. Wahab, when it comes to social media activists like yourself, how important is also the role of people like yourself to ask and to tell people of what is actually happening in Pakistan, so that they understand the need that Pakistan is in as far as the different forms of aid that Pakistan needs is concerned? Wahab, can you hear me? I think the connection has, so thank you very much, Wahab, also to have joined us. That was Wahab Khan, social activist. Finally, Namrah, if you are still online with us, how optimistic do you feel was the Secretary General Antonio Guterres in the press meet and after in the question answer session that you saw, as far as the pledging and raising the voice for Pakistan is concerned? All right. Namrah, Sohail, Wahab Khan, and in the studio Sarmad Iqbal. Thank you very much to have joined us, to have talked to us, and to have highlighted the issue that is the calamity that Pakistan is faced with, that are the floods, that is the devastation that is caused, and that is the need for as much relief and aid as possible from different quarters, from different sectors, from the world over, from all the different countries and organizations, national and international, including yours, that is so vehemently working in that direction. And also the visit of the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres is going to be a step in the right direction as far as the realization that the world needs to have as far as what Pakistan is undergoing at this very moment. So let's hope that voice goes across to the world and to all those who are listening. Thank you very much, to Sarmad, to have joined us here as well. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we come to an end of this show. As far as we've just said, reiterated, people are in need of help. More than 33 million people are in need of help. You need to help them directly, indirectly, as much and in whichever capacity you can. There are different mechanisms to do it. Please go forward and do it in whatever and how much, less or more doesn't count, but you need to help. And that is the main crux, how we will come out of this calamity. Allah Hafiz.